exciting because what we're trying to do is we're trying to build up a population study and potentially a genetic study for these animals. So what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to see realistically how many of these animals could be in this area that we're working on. We've been told there's 30 plus animals that live here, but we want to kind of find out. So we're locating animals, we're recording through GPS, and we're beginning to do scale clippings on the individuals that we find, so we can assign specific identification to everybody. We're getting measurements, weights, and we photograph each individual animal. And then the animals are released, and we try to do this with minimal invasion as possible, like 10 to 15 minutes max, to not freak the animals out. We put them back in there, and then we're gone. And we're really excited about this because it's going to be a very long project, just because of how difficult it is to get here and to be able to find the animals. But it could hold some really interesting new information for us regarding the species and just natural behavior. So this was that first female we found, and it was interesting when I picked her up. You can see the nest site in the back there. That was after we opened it up and started getting temperatures and everything. She had like a really gnarly looking scar on on her lip here. I don't know where it's from. I would assume possibly from a prey item, and it grabbed a hold of her, and she just scarred up and left her with this. So we used this as her identifier, and then we shot basic photographs of just of her head, and kind of compared the scale plates to some of the other specimens. And the interesting thing is we started noticing some differences in some of the animals that we have photographed from prior trips to this trip. The animals have like a very stockier, rounder shaped head. The plates are very distinct and very bulbous looking, compared to some of the animals were very clean and longer shaped head. And on one of the specimens we collected last year, or saw in the mountains, was missing a whole set of scales right here. It could be just the individual animal, but it was really exciting that we found it. It was just really interesting. So we're going to plan to go back to that area that we're at and see if we can find another snake and see if it potentially shows that same identifier that we saw in the first one. But there she goes, right back in her nest, and we covered the hole up here. The natives are really interesting if they excavate a nest out for the female. They're very meticulous of putting everything back the same exact way that it was found, to like small little twigs, to the leaves that were on the front there. They make it look identical to the way it was we found it, which is fantastic. We don't want to just throw the snake in there and throw some dirt on it and be gone. So it's like we're never there. Here we are on the second one. Once we got done locating that animal, we had heard from our guide that had wandered off that there was another snake. So we were already excited about the first animal we got that we started doing this with. And we came around the corner, maybe about 100 to 200 yards away was another animal outside of its nest. She was a little bit more weary and took off when she saw us. So you can see me here holding on to her and kind of moving some of the vegetation to get her out of the nest so we can start to examine her. But you can definitely tell in this image right here, comparable to some of the animals that people are typically used to seeing in captivity, that this snake looks very different. Like I said, they have that very stocky bulldog, typical face that you see in some of the holotype images in pictures, and just a massive, massive snake. She was probably close to 10 feet, and you can see kind of the thickness on her body compared to my hand right there. And she started shedding too, and I was like, oh no. So we helped her along with her shed and put her back after we took photos. But you can see how interesting, like all the pitting and all the scales are in here, and how yellow, how brightly colored she is from the other specimens. So a top piece here. It's really interesting. We typically find females. Like I said before, we've never found a male cruising around, so I'd be very interested. I'd be excited to find a male. Getting tired of finding all these nests with these eggs. You can see right there. These are really cool.
Every time a female, she'll show you 4 female and 4 males.
Yeah, I know, right? Just sit up there and wait for the boys.
Do the locals ever find them? Or?
Yeah, they do. They can find them. I don't know how. I still don't know how they've showed us how to find these, but they do find them. They said that they've seen them. Typically they see the most of the males during breeding season, May, June, July, and they've noted, without me even asking, that the males will come out and they combat, which I don't know. I've never seen it until I see it in person. but it's still really interesting to note that they have observed 2 males with 1 female present, and then they've seen them copulating as well. So here she is, we're getting measurements, and she already had a damaged scale right here, so we recorded that, and then we took a small clipping and then just kind of sent her on her way. This was really cool because when we got done with those animals and came back down, somebody had called us and said, hey, we have a youngster we found. And then was smart enough to tell us where they found it. So we had all that data to go with it, and as much as I would have liked them not to take the animal from the wild and us to be able to see it while we're there, nevertheless, we did the exact same thing with it. But this was from a different region, and interesting, I had been to this place before. You'll see a slide from it, but this animal is just really interesting looking because it's got like those, they almost look like ticks up by its nostrils, and this little patch of bright yellow scales right there, and then this one yellow scale that's right there too, or the yellow coloration. And I've seen this yellow on several other animals before, but this is, aside from babies, the youngest animal I've observed, just in starting its transformation from the yellow, or the red rather, to the black. I'd probably speculate this animal is close to 2 years of age, maybe a little older. So here is Glitch and Lars. Here's the nest from the first female, and you can see how it's the entrance is right here. This is actually a relatively large entrance, and how it's on a slope. And the only reason I can see that it's on a slope like that, well, several reasons. One is because it's constantly raining, so the water is going to have more tendency to go down than pool up in this area here and flood out that burrow that she's in. And also the vegetation just piles and piles on top, so it probably leaves that shape there. But we're not anywhere near any kind of cliffs or anything. We're actually interior right here. There's an entrance to it, and it's super tight in there. So here we are with her. I thought it was the torn shorts that we had. So this was in January. This was the same region that I found that one other individual animal, the area called Wosi. And this was the youngest snake I've ever found on eggs. I would say she's probably close to maybe a little over 6 feet in size. So it was a small snake, and her head was probably about that big. And she had a clutch of eggs. She was also the most inquisitive out of all the females that I've ever come on with eggs. She was not aggressive, but she was very quick to find out what we were doing, and made it very apparent by sticking her head out and tongue flicking and checking everything out. So we just took some data records and covered the front up a little bit and went on our way. Here she is again right there. And there she is, telling us just to back off. That was the point where we were like, okay, we're done. So, thank you guys. Like I said, we're excited about this new project we're trying. It's going to be a long project. It's going to take a long time, but it's a start of something that could be great, and it could open up avenues for us for helping them out in captivity, as well as understanding them in the wild more. We specifically were working on a lot of this data to incorporate in this new book we're working on, where we're going to be taking the common way of basically not showcasing these animals, but writing about them, and we're going to be focusing heavy on a lot of the natural history and geography and everything that a lot of literature I see nowadays kind of lacks with certain species. So we're really focusing heavy on that and trying to get as much information as possible about where they come from and the people that are there, and the information that we learn from the environment as opposed to what we're learning from just keeping them as pets. So it should be very exciting. So appreciate it. Thank you. Let me see if I